Hello, everybody. I am Michael Mochao. I am your MC and host today. And Carl, if you'd like to work us through, that'd be awesome. A bit of housekeeping, of course. All participants will be on mute, or in this case, um, if you do want to ask a question or make a point or anything like that, there is a Q&A tab at the bottom, so feel free to put it in there. The session is being recorded, so it will be shared with all of you that weren't able to join us today or join late or whatever the reason, so you will have access to this. And like I said, everything you want to put, feel free to shove it in the Q&A section, which we'll visit later on. Like I said, reasonably handsome fellas presenting today, not including myself. So myself, I'm Michael Mochao, I'm the regional sales manager. We have Carl with us, who's our head of sales, and our head of products is Jonny Pearson with us as well. So we'll be running.
Hi, everyone.
There we go. Awesome.
Afternoon. It might be still
Afternoon, good
morning
morning, good
somewhere.
night.
Yeah, indeed.
Everything. Yeah. So obviously our agenda today, we're going to give you a bit of an introduction about us, as we always like to do if you haven't met us or seen us or just tuning in. We'll be running through around how does testing help, and do we need testing? What does that mean for us today in the real world? And potentially look at what original software is working on to see what it looks like tomorrow for the future. And discuss some potential further actions and go through some questions on there as well. So, a little bit about us. What is there to say? We are awesome. We are epic. Everything and above. So we've been around since the 1990s, 1996, and I'm sure some and most will know or remember what they were doing back then. So it's always an interesting thing to think about. We really cut our teeth and built the software to initially focus on testing over the IBM system. So for those who don't know what that is, it is not necessarily, it's known as the green screen, but it's not really a green screen. It's black and analog and with some green writing on there. And actually, usually you see it a lot in a lot of airports or things like that. But it's still used today, and it's heavily used today. It's really quite a big tool. Working with other applications across every scope, whether it is on-premise, cloud-based, homegrown applications. We've been working with enterprise applications for a very, very long time, for more than 10 years and more. The platform is, like I mentioned, is truly agnostic. And the key point here is it's a code-free platform. It's not built to solely give capability to the technical team. It is built to bridge the gap between me, the user, and let's say the technical team, Jonny, because I am nowhere near his intellectual level, but I would be the person on the other end having for Jonny to kind of wrangle around. So this is something that really bridges that gap between us, and it's out of the box and it's truly end-to-end testing. So that's who we are, and that's what we do. So I wanted to ask a quick question before we go on to the next session. Just a little poll, which let me see. So we have quite a few things in here. One of those is, how do you currently manage your testing, and what is your biggest testing challenge? So first, I'm going to actually ask you, how do you manage your testing? So I'm just going to launch that, just so it's in there. Give it a couple of minutes. Oh, no, close that.
Minute, seconds.
There we go. Or second. Yeah, minutes is a bit too long in this world, isn't it? Especially on a quiet webinar. And we'll save that for later. And we can move on to the next slide. Sorry, Carl.
Okay, yeah, no, thanks, Mike. And obviously talking about AI, and Mike's just asked a question there, and we've performed a number of webinars this year. So I think it's always useful to share, that feedback. People that have just answered those questions there, thank you. Again, we will update those stats and we'll continue to share them with the community. Why? Because it helps. And why does it help? Because there are lots of people that have been there and done it, and can we share from it? Can we learn from it? But interesting in that sort of, I'll say that the commercial off-the-shelf space, and what do I mean by that? Lots of people on the call will be using maybe SAP, Infor, Oracle, to name but a few, probably Salesforce. They're now sort of off-the-shelf products. I know we can change them. I know there's lots of toggles, but in essence, how those vendors sell those products as commercial SaaS tools means that we've now got to go and do something with it every time it changes. And a lot of the organizations we deal with don't have those expertise, don't have testing tools, and didn't really need to test because they had on-premise applications that they might update once in a blue moon. But the great feedback here is that you're not alone, because 71% of the people that have been on our webinars this year don't have those specialist testing tools either. So knowing where to start is really that sort of toughest challenge. And over the course of this year, where we've asked the same question at many different conferences, who loves testing? And I think on one hand, we've probably across the year had 4 or 5 people that put their hand up. They love testing. And guess what? Those people were in the QA function. Of course they love testing. But generally, it's done far too late, not enough time, and nobody likes doing it. It's taking people away from their core day to day. So hence why webinar today is, can we help testing? Can AI help? And what does it really mean? And what's in software today? From an AI perspective, we appreciate it's a very big subject, and AI has been around for a long time. So what does it mean from an original software perspective? 2 quotes that I've read, used many times, and they sort of resonate with where we are on our AI journey. We already have AI in the software. You're going to see some of that later with Jonny, but we're replacing that some of that human behavior, that human intelligence, where we have to objectively make a decision. And in the world of all those applications I've just mentioned, there's a lot of change. So how can we bring about a repeatable, standardized, mistake-proof process? Then we have to remove some of those decision makings that I would normally make, you would normally make, because I know that I've still got a few mistakes left in me in my lifetime. I know I have. And that's where that sort of cognitive AI comes from. And you're going to see some of that, and I'll sort of explain a little bit more what we mean about that cognitive AI. And then, yeah, it's one thing saying that, and I've chose the bottom statement purely because Jonny on the call, he loves yoga, and Google it. There's some AI powered.
I really want to try these AI powered yoga pants. They sound awesome.
But the biggest thing there is, it's as everything is as good as the knowledge we get. If we're teaching poor knowledge, we're going to get poor behaviors from it. So in that world of testing and our test data, data is absolutely key and instrumental of what we're taking to turn that into useful intelligence. Plus the quote from Splunk there, Splunk are a sponsor of McLaren's Formula One team, and I like my Formula One, so no apologies for that. So what do we mean, the original software, by that sort of cognitive AI? So the next slide, literally, I'm going to put it up for 2 seconds, maybe 3 seconds, and can you spot the differences? Because there's another term there, spot the difference. We probably already all know what it is already, and type into the chat below, have a quick guess, but literally 3 seconds, identify those differences. Good. I bet we've spotted all of them already, haven't we? So applying that sort of level of human behavior to it, what do we mean by that sort of cognitive intelligence? Press the wrong button. And it's that ability straight away to identify any change, any difference between the original, what it was yesterday, before we've then taken that latest service release or half-yearly major release. There's obviously a high frequency on some products into that sort of monthly. Do we know those changes straight away? So we're removing me from the process, because I might spot 1 or 2 of them. Somebody else might spot 3 or 4 of them. Will we identify as humans every single change? Only the ones we're looking for. But what about the unknowns? That's the bit where testing is really powerful, and the cognitive AI plays its really powerful bit. So breaking that back into, I'll say, 4 elements of where we are today. Excuse me, voice is going. Where we are today. Just talked about that sort of cognitive AI. So from an object recognition, whether that is the HTML data behind everything, it's actually patented technology that we have. How we objectively identify every single field, feature, color, pixel on the screen. Yes, if pixels change, we can identify the pixels. If color changes, you can identify the colors. Would you want all of that turned on? Maybe not. But as I say, it's uniquely to us and patented how we identify those features. Some of you may know, the fields that you're typing information into, part number as you and I see it on the screen. Behind the scene, that could just be field 1. So if we see field 1 as humans, it means nothing to us. How we uniquely identify that and present it to us as users or those subject matter experts is a real key differentiator. And we touched on the spot the difference, automating some of those quality checks, taking us to that point of concern sooner rather than later. And obviously, having identified all of that, you can apply then an element of self-healing, which enables you to use that new test script that's been automatically created to go and replace all of the old scripts wherever they're used. So again, that maintenance on the testing on the organization becomes a lot, significantly reduced. And the final one talked about a number of different applications, number of different ERPs in the connected business today, from e-commerce to supplier portal, maybe a separate warehouse management system, maybe separate finance system. A lot of tools will break if an application it's waiting for a period of time. And that sort of intelligence now that's built into the software, if there's a call gone out to a third party application, we know that application's gone out, and like humans, we'll probably sit there and probably moan that it's taken too long. But we will know that it's gone out and it's taken quite some time. And by the way, yes, we're recording that performance in the background, so you can identify that things are taking longer than they should do, but it won't break that end-to-end test. And that's a real key feature of maintaining and making sure that things are operational 24/7. So that's sort of where we are today. And I'm going to hand over now to Jonny, our head of product. You're going to get a snippet and an insight now into our forward view on the world. And I won't say roadmap because, well, I will do. I have already said it. Some insight into what the next year of original software looks like.
Thank you, Carl. Yeah, so we've been doing quite a bit of research recently and actually over the past few months about how we can actually bring something that's useful with AI to our customer base. There's a lot of things out there. There's a lot of sort of gizmos, and gadgets and all this kind of stuff that may look good, but do they bring lasting help to your whole process? And we've come across maybe a few that can, a few that can't, and a few that we're not sure of. And I just wanted to run through them today, and hopefully at the end we can get your opinion also. But what we've been playing with is, and something that we've been asked for by our customer base quite extensively, is the ability to automatically build a test case from scratch. So we have a situation where we have disparate knowledge bases are set around the company in different departments using different areas of ERP or the software. How can we quickly get that information into a centralized reusable format? So one of the things we're looking at is attaching to our business process capture system. We'll actually go through, and once we've captured that business process, run it through AI, and it will come out with a useful test case with potentially test steps, so that you can come through, and then it will go into a centralized process with a version number for that software, and this can be rerun by anyone in the team. So sharing that knowledge, reducing the time it will take to test because more people can do it, and all you had to do was run through a process once with somebody capturing it. So we can build the test cases ourselves and run the business process capture at the moment, but the extra thing that we're going to be able to do is build some useful, even user stories, as well as test cases and test stats that anybody can reuse. The second area that we're looking at is test case refactoring. So it's all well and good having a robust centralized test case repository. What happens when the application and test changes? So in this scenario, we're looking at ways where we can take in the information such as patch information or update information for whichever ERP you've got, and automatically scanning your current test cases, creating new ones where changes require them, but also changing existing test cases so that they now are actually looking at the truth of what the application is and automatically version controlling it. That on its own would save an awful lot of time. On the back of that, if we could then do some kind of impact analysis of change, so we can take in the changes for the patch or the upgrade or the new feature that's been added and suggest which of the test cases you currently have need to be run to cover that, and also create the new ones and bring them into the fold, you're going to be far more certain that the change will be tested correctly, and therefore business continuity ultimately will be upheld because the risk is so much lower. So the opportunities we have in the coming year to do all this and give it to our customers are very real, and it's something that we're looking in at the moment. I'm hesitant to say roadmap, but
Well, I knew
I,
you would be, John, because that's
but I'm
perfectly normal.
it's certainly a strong direction, shall we say.
Definitely the insights. Yeah, for me, I'm most excited about that test requirement analysis.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The impact analysis, certainly.
yeah,
Well, let's see
yeah.
what I'll hand back to Michael. Let's see what you guys
No, I think that's very interesting, actually. Um, I mean, I would love a pair of rocket boots in that mix, but I guess yeah, that's asking too much. But from where we are to what we can potentially get to, I think it's massive. And it would be good to hear or to get, the user's opinion on this. And if there's anything that isn't on that list, to let us know what you think would be something to work towards also. We're always happy to take on that feedback and see what we can do to facilitate it. Absolutely. And I'm sure Jonny, from Jonny's reaction, I'm saying the right thing here. So
absolutely.
feel
Yeah,
free to send
I'm
in.
always more than happy to listen to people's ideas and ways that we can help our customer base and our non-customer base who eventually may want to buy into this. So
Yeah,
absolutely.
send in some feedback also. Um, I
Okay, so let's go on. Maybe show you some of this stuff.
Sorry, yeah,
We
just
can move.
before we jump into there, I think there is one
yes,
question that ties things in quite nicely. We've got a lot of things on our sorry, Johnny, I keep saying roadmap. We've got a lot of things that are on, the future vision. And building some of that into it now. And I think there's another question here, isn't there, Mike? Just again,
it's launching it.
yeah, thanks. Again, it just helps to drive the direction. I know I'm not the fountain of all knowledge. It comes from, that experience and our experience from my customers. So this question's a nice one. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so Johnny's, touched on a few things there, how we, looking to build and automate those test cases and test steps. So he's going to take you into that where we are now and where those test steps come off the back of some of the manual testings that then take us into that um, automation and spotting the difference.
Okay, so let me share my screen then.
Yeah, I'll stop sharing that. Done.
Okay. So the first area that I want to show the how we capture business processes. So what I mean by that is when we hand this over to somebody, what do they go in and what do they see? And really, it's a very simple sidebar that can appear. And as you can see, currently it's recording over SAP, but we are technology agnostic. It could be Infor, it could be Oracle, it could be any web system. So you can see here I'm actually jumping through several systems in one go. And I'm capturing all the information that I would need for somebody else to utilize. And then we're even going to go into green screen to utilize if they wanted to rerun this test. So it's great at capturing the information. As I said, there's a lot of what you can call AI going in the background here in the way that it captures and tells you exactly what it's pointing at. We also have this patented so that we can say when you do an input, exactly what the input hits. And then we can actually mark these screens up very easily to help somebody who's going to run through this moving forward. This will work both for testing, if you wanted to test steps, or the business process capture you can see before you. What's generated from this is something that can be shared around the company. We can do it in several ways. The one that I'm showing here is the standard Word or PDF type document, which clearly tells you the story of what it is you need to do to be able to move forward and ensure that this process is successfully completed. And it will mix in the different applications that you've gone through. It's very rare these days that people sit in one place where you just go through and you actually only test one system. It's normally end-to-end systems that are done like this. So what you're seeing now is an animation, and it's a sort of proprietary version of the it's not an MP4, it's much smaller, so you can even email these around the company, and it will show you a representation of what it would mean to run through a given process. So in this example, we've actually already put in the bubbles to say areas that people wish to see, and specify. So, you know, if you are new to this, it could be almost a training material as well as a business process that we're doing. Whichever way you do it, this is the start point to testing where I am now, what's the business process, because you can utilize these not well for training purposes, but also as start points for people who want to build test cases. So in the future, as we said, we may have that at a click of a button, or you can run through and test it. So the other great thing about this is once you go through and do this, I'm now going to show you how you can reuse these for automation. So I created what's a playlist here, which uses the knowledge that we've captured in the business process capture, and we're going to play it back against Infor. Now, on the right-hand side, you see where it's flashing red. That's the BusySense AI, where it's listening to the application and the testing. It will not move forward until the application is ready to move forward. Solves a lot of problems, especially end-to-end testing across different applications. So we'll run through, and typically these are run overnight over multiple virtual machines. So the idea is once you get a drop of new software, you can run these overnight, and in the morning you'll come in and it will just point out where the differences are, what's happened, even if it's crashed, which probably shouldn't happen at this stage, but you never know. It's really covering you as a user to ensure that you're going to lower the risk as much as possible, because what it's not doing, and I'm going to show you in a moment, is it's not just clicking on places on the screen. It's using the AI to get the content recognition to run through, and it's checking everything on the screen to ensure that it's working correctly. So even when we move to the logout and we complete that, the idea is you'll come in the morning, you will just have a list of actions, as you can see here in the results set, where it's failed, when it's failed. And the way that we do this is spot the difference in action, basically. And you can see here it's graying the screen out apart from the two areas where there is a difference. So you can see there's a difference in pricing, the value, and you can then plow in and have a look at why that is, basically. But it does it all for you, and it clearly presents the before and the after picture of that test. So it's heavily utilized by our customers. It's start of the flow through. We capture the process. We can get reusable testing assets, whether they're manual or whether they're automated. If they're automated, they're using this AI function to be able to then tell you any differences and see what those differences are in a very simplistic way for you to understand. And that's really the story of where we are at the moment. And you can see how that will hook into where we're going in the future.
I think that's really strong, right? Because from a functional testing perspective, people like me on the front lines, not necessarily a back end, that are doing this functional testing, it's not the actual action of doing the test that really annoys them. It's the stuff you have to do after, which is document it, take screenshots and write a report to go with it. And then, I might be away in development and trying to get a hold of me to try and understand what I did because I didn't explain it correctly or whatever it is. That communication and that transfer of information is the most painful bit of it, really, because yes, the test takes me as long as it takes me to do on a normal day, but it's everything else that takes my time out of my job, right? And to have something
Absolutely.
that standardizes that communication and automatically creates it, and on top of it, it's available to these people in real time from the point that you press save, and you get a playback video is extremely powerful from that perspective. So yeah, awesome,
definitely.
awesome. There we go.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Jonny. Cheers. That was
You're welcome.
yeah, good. Hopefully, people got the gist of where we are now, definitely, and like you say, how it hooks into the things that it doesn't look a big change that we have to make to hook in those, creating the test steps, creating test scripts. Yeah. Well, I don't think it's simple, but I don't think it's difficult, but I'm non-technical. So yeah, thanks for that. So yeah, really just to finish off before we get into the questions and answers. So please put some more questions into the Q&A down the bottom if you have them. And yeah, so key takeaways from the last sort of 35 minutes are, he says.
Now you're making me hungry, Carl.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's getting to that time in the UK, isn't it now? And yeah, Jonny, nearly lunchtime.
I was heading to lunch and I was looking at that food.
So where we started, and the sharing some of those experiences, certainly across this year, as we've engaged in a lot more webinars and had some really good feedback and round tables with customers. There's a lot of experience out there. Play on it, use it, go and get it. You're not alone. And where we are today, it's not that, it's not the wonderful, what is wonderful? Is generative AI wonderful? There's a question. It's not generative AI at this moment in time within what we have. What does have generative AI is another question. We've got to teach it back to that data. And we've touched on the sort of cognitive AI, which is bringing that automation into play, which enables that analysis and that intelligence to take its process to spot the difference. And the feedback over this year has been that testing is a royal pain in the behind. It takes too long. It's a massive bottleneck. Automation has to play a big part, but don't think there's a magic red button for it, because there isn't. Not yet, but that's maybe a bit further out on the roadmap, hey Jonny. And
well, we'll see about that.
And it gives us the ability, therefore, to be able to have a repeatable process, testing everything every single time, mitigating that risk of those changes that are going to happen in the businesses now, in your organizations, because you've got those off the shelf, those SaaS-based applications that are going to update frequently every single year. We've touched on it, taking people to that point of concern or point of failure sooner rather than later. That cognitive AI, it's probably a lot easier to remember, spot the difference. It's often how I refer to it. I think we all understand it, but it's applying that, those human behaviors to be able to spot the difference. You've had the little insights into the future. I think my favorite one is the test requirements analysis, because we don't know what we don't know. And if release notes come out, and analyzing and interrogating those release notes, because the data on those release notes is good. You'd class it as good because it's come from those vendors, so therefore it's good data to go and apply some level of analysis and intelligence to understand, okay, what do I need to go and test in my business to make sure that I'm going to be operational tomorrow. And yeah, none of this should be hard. Excuse me. John has demonstrated, out of the box there, you have that expertise within your business and the subject matter experts to go do it straight away. This isn't relying on going and acquiring new skills in coding. You've got the skills already in those subject matter experts within your business to go do. So it shouldn't be hard. Unfortunately, there's a bit of time. All the best things are, we have to invest in a little bit of time to go and do.
Yeah. And I think just to add on that, Carl, I think we discussed this earlier today as well. I think it's truly understanding what your testing strategy is, right? Everybody seems to think testing, and there is still a thing of well, we can start 6 months to the project, but actually 6 months is not a lot of time in reality when it comes to trying to get people to invest time to test and actually document and everything else. The sooner you start, the better. And like you said, you have all these people that are your SMEs that truly are the experts in their field who know what they're doing, right? So to have a solution that empowers them to just allow them to do what they do, but actually document everything that they're doing already allows you to build a huge repository of test cases and test scenarios, and then allow you to then move towards that Shangri-La position in the future to start automating those processes because now you're gaining visibility. These SMEs are truly your miners when it comes to grabbing this data for you. Instead of having to go out and retrain someone how to understand what code is, or have to hire FTEs to do so, and then train them to know what your business is. Everything is already available to you. It's now, what does that testing strategy look like to you? What is your priority? And that's something you certainly need to think about. But I guess I'll ask a question, Jonny, from your perspective. From an AI capability from testing, from an output perspective, is there any sort of approach to how we use AI in the test management side of things, potentially, as to, for example, how you create personas or
Yeah, so we looked into test management, and it's not going to be our first hit, but it will be around business intelligence, i.e., how do I understand what's in front of me? It's great capturing all this information. It comes to you automatically now, which if you use our management system, but then how do I understand that? What does that mean? How do I interpret it? Where do I need to put resources in to ensure this project is on time? What areas of the application am I testing appear to be weaker than they should be? What's the root cause analysis of some of the issues I'm hitting? So we're looking into all of that, and it will be coming along. It's just going to be phase 2.
Okay. What is there's one question here that I can see, which is why does original software have the capability to test end to end? What makes it different to other solutions?
So, as you said it right at the beginning, the inception of original software was over green screen only, and its core value was to, or the core raison d'etre, if you like, was to be enabling people who were not that technical to ensure the lowest risk possible for their software changes, which meant they could get business continuity. Now, it just so happened it started on the green screen. But we, quickly things moved to web. Well, in fact, before web, it was GUI. And we always, all the way along, said we're here not to support a software type. We're here to support a process, which is ensuring the best quality validation for your software products, whatever they are, whatever the process is, end to end. So that's been baked in from the beginning. And we just continue to do that. When new things come out, such as Edge, straight away we were on it, and we had a solution to it within weeks, I think it was, for Edge, actually. So, and we will continue to do this moving forward. We supported all the old Oracle stuff, the new Oracle stuff, SAP, Infor, Manhattan, lots of different ERPs, lots of different solutions, and lots of different sort of software houses that produce software as well. That's a different type of testing than the one we've been talking about today, but we support that as well. And it's actually become more and more useful as time's gone on, because people don't have one big behemoth of an application anymore that they use and that's it. It's always built up of an ecosystem of multiple different applications with multiple different technologies. So it's kind of fared as well over the years, and it's something we are going to continue doing.
Awesome. There's another question is regarding the automated documentation that comes out of the system. How is it exported, and does it take up a lot of storage, and is it easy to share between team members within the business or the organization?
So we have standard outputs like Word and PDF. We can produce them, and then you can share, you can put them in SharePoint or share them over email, things like that. That's pretty standard stuff. I mean, the level that we do it at is really good. But we have another option, which is animation, which is these little videos, which we initially started using MP4, but we found them to be quite heavy, you couldn't email them around, they were too big, and they weren't always the best way to do it. So we created our own proprietary version. Now, the great thing about that is that you can still email it. You can email it around because it's so small, and people do not need our software on their machines to view it. They just need a little widget, a viewer, and you can share that all around the company. And we found that to be a much better way. And it's also easy to manipulate if you wanted to add your own comments in, as we saw in the presentation.
Yeah. I guess I want to direct one to Carl, and I guess to Jonny as well. I guess is, from an implementation and adoption side of things, what is Original Software's model, and and why is it so flexible and easy to use?
So the software is designed to be used by the functional subject matter experts, and how we capture all the evidence, all the traceability, again, is designed that us as users, those functional users, can understand exactly what's been done, what's changed, because it's at that operational level of the screen. We understand, I know how to go and create a purchase order. I can see the screen, I can see the interactions. It's not it's not a headless tool running straight through it. It's turning something into, I'll say, simple language that those businesses, those functional users can understand, and can go and create themselves, because it is about keeping the lights on. It's about keeping businesses operational as they were yesterday, today. Can I still raise a purchase order after I've put this, latest and greatest update in? Can I still invoice? Can I still receive orders? They are, if we can't do that in our business, some of our customers, they're turning over billions. It's millions of pounds a day, a few hours. There's a potential lost revenue of tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars, pounds, whatever currency you're in. It's that type of impact. Let alone, you've seen everything in the press from if it's very public and people's brands are affected, share prices drastically go down tens of billions of pounds. It can do in some of those large enterprises, but it's really putting things into, I'll say, plain English, that the subject matter experts, those functional experts in businesses, can understand and can execute on.
Yeah. Okay. So I've got one more question here. I'm guessing it will be more for Jonny. I mean, what are the limitations on AI-driven testing tools compared to the traditional testing approaches?
So the limitations really are something that Carl mentioned earlier, and it's to do with the data that you put in. And it's the same with automation, to be honest. And it's the same with any kind of test plan. You're limited by the power of AI that you choose to use. So if we're talking about large language models, then you can have separate models that are specifically trained. For example, let's say we have an SAP model and it's trained to answer SAP style questions. So it's linked into the user guides. It's had a lot of questions in the past, from how do I do a test case that covers business process VA01, whatever it is, then you're going to get some good results. If the model has no knowledge of what you're doing, so it has no data, then potentially it's not going to be as good. It's never going to be, see, it's the same as automation. People think it's a panacea, it's a silver bullet. It's something to be used. It's something that can really help your job if used correctly. It can really hinder your job if used incorrectly, and it has its limitations. It can never tell you, as a business user, whether you feel the process I've just been through is bloated, it's convoluted, I didn't like the color, I didn't like the way that the button was down here. It can't give you those kind of human feedback type things at the moment. You're still going to need to do that. But what it can do is give you a really good idea of the test plan that you need to actually do the job in front of you, whatever that is. And it can do that automatically. It can save you a lot of time doing that, and it can make sure that the risk is reduced.
Cool. Well, I guess that's us at the moment. So yeah, if you have any other questions, you're very welcome to send them our way. Like I mentioned it before. And I want to thank Carl and Jonny for joining us today. and wish everybody a great weekend. Weekend. I mean, well, we're halfway, but you know, we can.
Hump day. It's all
Yeah.
downhill to the weekend now.
They do say a Friday, the Thursday's the new Friday, I guess. So tomorrow.
Absolutely, definitely, yes.
So, thank you, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your day. And thank you for joining us.